Hello, everyone. I hope that you're doing well wherever you are and that you and your loved ones are safe. Welcome to our regular Thursday lectures. Today, we've got lots of exciting things in store for you. But before we get started, let me just briefly introduce myself. As some of you may already know, my name's Victoria, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator for Education USA here in Ukraine. We are, of course, part of the global network of the US Department of State, which consists of over 435 international student advising centers in more than 180 countries. As the official source on US higher education, we always offer accurate, comprehensive, and unbiased information about opportunities to study in the United States. Today, we are going to cover the topic of communicating with professors and admission officers. So, if you have a lot of questions for a US university you're applying to, but are afraid to spoil the first impression by a messy email, or you've ever wondered why your emails remain unanswered and stressed about that, then you need to look no further than today's session. Being with me today in the studio is, of course, our wonderful university representative, Mайлі Дуонг, Assistant Director of International Recruitment at the University of Northern Iowa. Mайлі will help you with your taking the first steps to reaching your dream college or university and just rising above all the other applicants, making sure that your voice is heard using effective communication techniques. Mайлі, it's so lovely to have you here with us. And I would just like to encourage all of our students here with us today. Do not hesitate to reach out and put your comments in the chat box down below. I'll be sure to monitor all of your questions and we'll get to them at the end of the session. Mайлі, thank you so much for joining us. Please take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It is so nice to speak on this topic and to reconnect with Education USA Ukraine again. My name is Mайлі, and I am the Assistant Director of International Recruitment. And I am very excited to talk about just effectively communicating that professional communication in the international admissions process. And so let's go ahead and get started with the presentation. So this is going to be a little more general, and then we're also going to have certain topics narrowed down to cover these four themes. I like to start from the beginning and just maybe talk generally about the U.S. communication norms, also emailing those important people later down the road. These are going to be, possibly the decision makers when it comes to the admissions process. And then I'll talk about some general writing tips, why they matter, and then lastly, I am more than happy to talk about the University of Northern Iowa, which is where I am working, and then also where I did spend my undergraduate career. Let's start from the very beginning, right? And I think that, it's important to talk about what is considered normal when it comes to communicating in the United States. So the first thing is in the admissions process, the main platform that is used is email. This is going to be for admission offices, meeting with your asking questions to professors, and we are totally aware there's many places that people can ask for information, whether that be through WhatsApp or social media. But I will say that in the admissions process, email is the most commonly used platform that we use to communicate. And then also, I would recommend checking your emails as well for when we reply back. Some other things. So the typical US business day. This is, sometimes you may get an email that says you will find a reply in 3 to 5 business days. And so a business day is Monday through Friday. So it's not the weekend. These are days that offices are operating. So this means that if you send an email on Friday, in the United States, we receive it on Friday and it says you can expect a response in 3 to 5 business days, and you reach out again on Monday, that's actually only really 1 business day. It's not even though there's 3 days technically that have passed, I think this is important to know. So when you're getting a response and they tell you what a business day to expect, this is usually Monday through Friday. Additionally, in the US, our office hours are typically 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so sending an email that we receive after these hours may or may not be responded to right away because a lot of times people are operating within that 8 to 5 office hour. And then holidays. If you are thinking, wow, it's been kind of a while since I've heard back from the admissions office, you can also check out and see, is it a holiday? Because I'm sure similar to your country, there are certain holidays that only exist in your country. And in the United States, we are the same way. We have Memorial Day, we have Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and these are celebrated typically in the United States. And these are days that our offices are not open. So if it's been a while, it wouldn't hurt to also check if it is a US holiday and if the office is just closed. And then when it comes to admissions offices and professors, I'm here to educate you on kind of what is a typical schedule. So, typically for a university in the US, the admissions office is open all year round, with the exception of those holidays. And all year round as far as business days go. So if you send us an email in July, very likely, we are working. We are here to answer those questions for you. On the other side of things, so professors, if maybe you have a question for a professor about the academic program that you're interested in studying, and it's July, they may or may not reply right away because professors do operate more on the academic calendar. And so, they are definitely available to answer when classes are in session, but because classes are not normally in session over the summer, and if that professor is not teaching a class over the summer, there may be a delay in the response. So that is just something to kind of keep in mind. And then on the topic of response rates and expectations, so usually you can expect a response within the week. However, that response a day after is not always common across all schools in the United States. And here at UNI, we do, get students that say, "Well, thank you so much for your really quick response," and we understand, that's maybe one of the reasons why you do choose the university that you go to because of how quickly they do respond or how quickly they don't respond. And I'm not here to brag, but at UNI, we did a survey of students that ultimately had chosen other schools, and we asked about UNI's communication because we are always wanting to improve within our office of international admissions. And we had so many of these lovely comments that you can see on our presentation, and we really value and understand that responding quickly is important. And so we try to really respond within 1 or 2 business days, but not all offices operate on that same schedule. And then just in the US, the typical style is pretty direct when it comes to communication. And so a lot of the responses to your questions will likely be direct. They will likely have links in them because we want to make sure that you have access to the resources you need for the answers that you're looking for. And then diving more into this topic of writing emails. So the first thing is I want to point out the decision makers in this process. And it's important to read that email twice before you hit send because in the admissions process, as someone who does work in the Office of International Admissions, I will say that a lot of times the people that you're emailing, even if it is to a general account, may or may not be someone that does end up reviewing your application. And we do review every single one. There is a human that is reviewing every single application, and so it does, I think, make a difference and play a factor just when it comes to first impressions. I'm not going to say like, "Oh, you're denied because this email you wrote me was not the best," but I will say it does make an impression when we get those communications. So just think twice to make sure that it's professional, that the grammar is there, the punctuation is good, and then there's a couple other things that I'm going to give tips on as well. When it comes to professors, sometimes professors are also making admission decisions depending on the university. So, some universities, the decisions are made through the Office of Admissions, and then some universities, the department is making those decisions. At the graduate level, sometimes the departments are a little bit more involved in making those decisions. And so, that's why it is important to really put some thought into those emails that you're writing in the admissions process. And then on the topic of frequency, so this ties into the information I shared in that previous slide about work hours and when offices are operating. I completely understand the curiosity of knowing the status of your application. But something to note is just is the office open? Has it been a business day? Things like that. Because sometimes there's automated emails after you submit your application that say, thank you so much for submitting your application. You're going to hear back from us in 5 business days or whatever that may be. And so just taking note of these things that we are informing you of. And then obviously, if it's been more than that, definitely reach out to us. But if it's been like one day, then just give us a little bit of time. So I don't think that there's any problem at all with reaching out to an international admissions office, but also sending an email every single day is something that we do notice as well. We're like, oh, why is this person, is there something wrong? They're emailing us so frequently, maybe asking the same question over and over again. So just take note of what we are sending you, digest that information, and then move forward. The last topic here is just on the topic of professionalism. I would say this is not a WhatsApp message. This is not a text message. We may or may not be friends, but I would assume probably not. And so the assumption is that you are applying to a university, a higher education institution, and we do hold you to a standard. Like this is somebody that will eventually, want to come here. They're going to be participating in classes. They're going to very, very likely be writing essays. Can they do that? So just double check your messages, making sure they're free of any spelling errors or grammar issues. And I have an example here later in this slide I'll show you as well. But I also do want to point out that we, as international admissions offices, completely understand that English may or may not be your first language. And so we do know that the person on the other side of the computer um, may not have English abilities that are 100%, and that's okay. But just double check if you can, what that style is, what the grammar, what the punctuation looks like. And on the topic of style, I'm going to be pretty um, literal with examples. So these are actually examples of some emails that we get here in our Office of Admissions that leave an impression, and maybe not always a good one. So I think these are just very simple fixes, and if you don't do this, that's great. But if this is something you notice you do, definitely reconsider how you are communicating by email. So, all capital letters in your sentences, and we joke in my office that when I get sentences that are all capital, like the ones that you see in this example, I'm reading it like, why is this person yelling at me? And so, usually, all capital sentences, the way we kind of interpret that is that you are definitely trying to bring to attention something, which we get, but all capital is usually not a common format of a professional email in the United States. Alternatives I would recommend if you want to bring attention to something is bolding the sentence, underlining the sentence, things like that. So you'll see an example of that. The second one is the entire subject in the topic that what you're trying to ask us is in the subject line of your email. So sometimes we get emails that the entire message is in the subject and then the body of the email doesn't have anything in it. And so I think that this is kind of just a formatting issue. It's a very easy fix, but usually your subject line is a short sentence about whatever it is you're inquiring about, and then the body of the email is where you can put all that detail that we're really looking for to help you. So this is just something to take note of. These are just two of the ones that we receive often, but like I said earlier, it's not going to be a deal breaker. We're not going to be making admission decisions solely on this, but just want to throw that out there so that you are aware. So now we're going to take a step back and just go over some really general email tips. So first thing, if you're getting an email from a faculty member, professor, or Office of Admissions, please read the email, especially if it's a university that you're really interested in. And if it's a university that maybe you haven't, that you've decided it's not a good fit for me, you can always communicate with them and say, hey, thank you so much. I'm no longer interested in your school. So that is going to be um, something that we do completely understand because we know that your inbox is getting flooded if you're applying to many universities. So the first thing is read the email. Like, actually, please read the emails. We try really hard to make it a good resource for you. So if you have a question, a lot of times we respond and we'll even give you a link as well. So, click through those links that are provided. And then usually those links have additional pages on that website that are also good resources too. So start to click through the links that we give you, research using those links that we give you, and just dive a little bit further. And the way that I think you should approach it is you're going to be doing research when you are at a university. So it can start now. Be a little bit curious to see what else is on this page and click through because you never know what may be on that website that answers the question that you were going to ask, anyways. The fourth one, after researching and asking the questions, is including details in your email. Especially for admissions officers, it is very possible that you can write an email and include no information about you, and we may just look up, by the email that you send to us. However, I think it's super helpful when students at least give a little more detail, like their first and last name, maybe their username, their ID number, and that's going to help us quickly identify who you are and so that we can best assist with your situation. So just include those simple details in your email to any admission officer so that we, get a little introduction to you, and we can also quickly look up your records too if you've already applied to a university. The second to last one, being professional, just making sure you're writing with the correct grammar, spelling errors are fixed, and addressing the person correctly. So, something that we do also receive is Dear Sir, or Mr., or Mrs., or Dear Ma'am. And to be inclusive. And so we get emails that say Dear Sir a lot. That's just a common one in my office. And we joke a little bit because we're all women in our office. So just know that you can be very inclusive in your greetings. Greetings, hello, to whom it may concern. You don't always have to assume that it's male or female on the other side. So it's just something that, like I said, we take note of it, but it's not going to be like a deal breaker. So just want to help you with structuring a good email. And then the last one, please be genuine in your emails. Um, on the topic of like artificial intelligence, AI, we can tell if the structure of the email is probably written not by you. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use it to help with your writing. I think it can be a good resource, but just take a second glance, see if there's areas that you can maybe update to make it more personal, so that we do get to know you as well. So just like I said, review what you're saying, double check that what is being written is accurate and a good reflection of what you're wanting to get answered. And then taking another step back, just general writing tips. I think this one's an important one just because, uh, in addition to email, there's other ways to communicate, right? You're writing essays for the admissions process. Maybe you're answering a short blurb and applying for a scholarship. And so these ones are more general in that way. So in the context of an essay, let other people just take a glance, review it with other people, share it with other people to see if they have any feedback to give you if you're writing an essay, a teacher, a parent, or friend, because sometimes I think a fresh set of eyes can help you find some of those little errors that I mentioned before. So it doesn't hurt to have someone take a look just to see if the message that you're wanting to get delivered to the admissions office is how we're going to interpret it. Secondly, don't automatically change your essay based on the feedback of others. So in step one, we ask you to share it with other people. And if they say, I think you should change this, consider it first. Like, should I change that? Is that going to benefit me? So don't just say like, oh yeah, good suggestion. I'm going to change that word completely because maybe that word was important. And so just, keep their advice in mind, but you know you best when it comes to writing that essay. Third one here, do your research. Make sure you're listing the correct school and spelling it correctly. There's over 3,000 schools in the United States. Some of them do have similar names or similar acronyms. Maybe you're applying to many schools and they all ask a similar question when it comes to the essay. But I will say that it does, stand out when I get an essay and maybe it's like addressed to a completely different school. I'm like, oh, I really wish they put the effort in. It kind of boils down to that. So just making sure you're doing your research and you're reading through, listing the correct school, spelling the name of the school correctly. We do get sometimes, people that think that University of Northern Iowa is an L and they say Lowa, and I'm like, that's not even a word. So um, second glance at that. And then I talked about awkward misspellings quite a few times. And so I just want to share an example. Um, I have sent you an email, but they spelled sent Cent. So sent, did I smell? Like that's kind of the definition of that version of sent versus sent Sent. And so that's one example where it's a little awkward. And then maybe in an essay they ask you to name activities that you have participated in, and you wrote cook and serve homeless. So one way you could interpret that is that you cooked meals and you served those meals to homeless people, or you could interpret that as you cooked up and served homeless people, and that's the direction you wanted to go. So, like that line alone has two different interpretations, one wildly different from the other. So, those are areas where misspellings could get a little awkward. And then I just wanted to show some examples because I am also a visual learner. So just taking a second here, this is an example of an essay question where we ask, what are your educational goals? How will pursuing your degree at UNI help you with achieving those goals? And this person answered all uppercase letters. So, like I said earlier, it's like they're yelling at me. I know that's not what they're trying to do. But also, there's some spelling errors here. I'm interested. Interested is not spelled right. Improve is not spelled right. And then another thing is in the field of BFA. So I would say in these kind of contexts, it's good to write out exactly what you're wanting. So bachelor's in fine arts, because an acronym, a shortened version of words in your country may not be the same as that here in the United States. So make sure you're writing out the entire thing, Bachelor's of Fine Arts. Those are a couple areas of improvement for this. I'm sure you're thinking in your head, oh, this is how I would write it instead. Um, and I want to show you an example of an answer that maybe was a little bit better. So, this person, they pointed out and they had lots of great detail here. They really wrote a story and they made it personal because they talk about Iowa and how, studying here at UNI is going to really benefit them personally. So they mention Iowa a few times, they talk about snowy Iowa. So like I can tell from this response, like, they really did the research and I can tell they really want to come to UNI specifically. And that's definitely what we're looking for as well. And then I hope you enjoyed the content just about the tips and tricks on writing an effective email and making that good impression when it comes to talking to admissions officers and faculty. And I just want to spend a couple minutes here talking about the University of Northern Iowa, because I think this is a really lovely, great value education that international students especially really thrive when they come here. And this is just a screenshot of an article that was just published a few days back at the end of September. So we very gladly, very happily welcomed in this group of Ukrainian students here at UNI. And so their situation is, it may be a little different from yours, but they were studying as exchange students here in Iowa and couldn't go home for obvious reasons. And so, we really put forth a lot of effort as a university in entirely to have a really safe space for these students to come and stay here in Iowa to pursue their undergraduate degree. And so, if you're interested in learning more about this article, feel free to just look up University of Northern Iowa, Ukrainian students. There's been a lot of really great articles written about their stories. And so, we are just a really welcoming space for not just students from Ukraine, but students really from everywhere. And then you're probably wondering, where is Iowa? Where is the University of Northern Iowa? So I like to explain that we are located in the heart of the United States. So we are located in what is considered the Midwest. And you can see that the state of Iowa is purple here. And we are about 10 minutes from a regional airport. So it makes it really easy for students to arrive and fly in close to the campus, and then we'll pick them up from that airport. But then also it makes it really accessible to other parts of the United States as well. So if you've always wanted to visit another area, maybe on a break or on a weekend, you can just go to the airport that's 10 minutes from campus, and that gives you access to a lot of other cool places as well. Some of those larger cities that are nearby UNI, so Chicago, Minneapolis, where Mall of America is, St. Louis. So these are all close hubs that you can usually drive to within a few hours. And then why study in the state of Iowa? I always like to say Iowa has low cost of living, really safe areas, high opportunities for jobs, no traffic, and it's a really peaceful state for students to get their education. So here on this slide, you can see, safe neighborhoods, affordable housing, really great medical facilities. It's a very livable state. And then also ranks number one for opportunity. And so I think that's really important for international students is getting access to the opportunities that they're looking for after graduation, because ultimately your education in the United States, it's supposed to be fun, but it's also supposed to be an investment. And so you want to make sure you're getting that return on your investment after you graduate. A little bit more about the campus itself. So this is an aerial photo of our campus. We are a pedestrian campus. This is a public school in the United States, and we are located in the Midwest. We're also the most affordable public university in the state of Iowa. Our current enrollment is a little over 9,000 students, so we are considered a mid-sized campus, not too big, not too small, with over 50 countries represented. And so we really value the diversity of our international students. We think they bring so much to the community here. And if you come to UNI, or even if you look us up on like YouTube or anything, you're going to see that our international students are really like impacting campus in a positive way. Here's another visual of the campus. It looks a little bit bigger, I think, in this photo than it truly is in person. But you can really get from one side to the other in about 15 minutes. And the size of this campus is one of the reasons why I personally chose to attend UNI for my undergraduate studies. But I also get a lot of feedback from students that the size of this campus is really perfect for them, where you're getting the experience and opportunities of a large university, but then also the educational and academic experience, the smaller classroom sizes of a small school as well. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And then I know safety is always a huge question when it comes to studying in the US. And UNI is ranked among the National Council for Home Safety and Security, one of the safest campuses in America. And so this is something that we prioritize and make sure that students feel safe on campus. More on the academic side of things, so we have over 90 undergraduate programs for students to choose from within these four colleges. And then we also have some really unique STEM programs as well. And so, there's an added benefit to studying a STEM degree in the United States. You can learn more about that here. And we also have a QR code where you can scan. And we have a new page we just rolled out that explains this a little bit more. And it also tells you what is considered STEM at UNI. So some schools offer programs that are uniquely STEM at only their school. And if you study a STEM degree, you qualify for up to 3 years of OPT after graduation. So I would love for you to scan this QR code if this has interested you at all, if you want to learn about that benefit. And we have laid that pretty clearly on our website. And so these are some of the programs that we do offer as STEM. And some unique ones are accounting, business analytics, management information systems. So those are not always considered STEM, but they are at our university. Also, just talking a little bit more about the facilities that we have. Gen 3 synthetic cadavers. So I think this one's a pretty cool one. We're definitely a hands on learning facility here. And so within all of our majors, there's opportunities to learn hands on. This is one that a lot of our biology students, our pre med students are using. And for me personally, I think it's a little creepy because it's so realistic to a human body, but we do have these synthetic cadavers, and that's something that I think is a good way for students to learn about the anatomy. And then we also have really great technology as well. And for our engineering students, we're currently spending over 40 million US dollars to completely renovate the engineering space. And so, knowing that our engineering programs are a little different, they're more a focus on the applied learning, the hands on learning, a little less on the theory. So, definitely scan that QR code and check out what maybe those engineering programs offer or just general STEM programs offer that might be of interest to you. And then talking about the fun aspects of UNI, so we have over 200 organizations on our campus for you to get involved in outside of your classes. So if you have an interest in playing club sports, debate team, if you want to do computer science club, we have over 200 opportunities for students to get involved. And then we are also Division One in our athletics. And so Division One is the highest level of athletics for students to play at, and we are um, very happy to offer free tickets to our students to go watch that Division One. And so that's a fun way to also get social on the weekends or in the evenings when you're taking a break from studying. And then we have a great performing arts center on our campus that brings in shows and acts from all over the nation, and students get 2 free tickets every semester to go and watch those shows. So there's really a little bit for everyone as far as things to do. And then on this topic, I also want to talk about the support services, and these are, the ones that are offered at my university, and I think that all universities in the U.S. really do have great support for students and international students, especially. So, Office of International Engagement is where a lot of our students go for just events, getting to know and network with other international students. So they'll do trips and things like that, pick you up from the airport when you arrive, and orientation. But then we have support services that range from academic advising, career services, making sure you can find those jobs that you want after graduation. And they range all the way to like the Learning Center, which is free tutoring that you can walk in when they're open to just get some help if you're struggling in a class. So I just want to share this page to really show students that we are here to support students, and we do know that you do come from overseas, and it's kind of a big adjustment. It is a big adjustment. And so we want to make sure you are comfortable and taken care of when you're here. So, on the topic of finances, I know this is also really important for people to understand. And I'm very happy to talk about this after this presentation or through a virtual one on one meeting as well. But the full cost of attendance at UNI, and this is for 1 year, is going to be $35,000 for the undergraduate level, and this is comprehensive of everything. So, including your housing, meals, insurance, and of course, your tuition. So, this is a number, the total cost is definitely something that you should be looking at just because you have to have somewhere to eat and you have to have somewhere to sleep. And so, when you're looking at universities in the US, you're going to find that the housing and meals is important to keep in mind because some places are a little bit more expensive than others to live. And I will say that the cost of living here in Iowa is below the nation's average. And so the dollar that you earn maybe working on campus is going to last you a little bit longer. But in addition to that, we're ranked 17th out of over 1,200 schools best value for international students. And so you're going to find that with our scholarships, which you can see on this slide, there's a couple different opportunities available to help bring that cost down. And then you can also scan that QR code if you want to go to the full page that explains the different scholarships available that we offer for international students and also how to receive them. So you do need to apply to UNI in order to receive any scholarships, but we do have 2 international ones specifically. So these are the Excel and the Scholars Award. At the max combined of the Excel and the Scholars Award is 11,000, and that 11,000 is about 50% of our tuition. So these top 2 that you see here are specifically for international students based on your grades. So you'll want to make sure that when you're submitting your application that your transcripts are included so we can review your grade point average. And then we also have other scholarships as well that have an earlier February 1 deadline. And so if you are interested in applying to UNI for either spring intake, and especially if you're interested in fall 24 intake of next year, this is the best time to apply. And so I just want to show this to share that we do have opportunities available. Unfortunately, we don't have full ride opportunities, but we do have some really great partial ones. And then this is just more information about the UNI Scholarship Application. So this is campus wide, over 300 awards that are major specific, open to students that are interested in fall 2024 intake. So this is just an extra opportunity for international students to apply for scholarships in addition to the 2 international ones that we do offer already. And then, if you're interested in applying for admission to the University of Northern Iowa, it's actually just 3 steps that you need to complete. So, head to our website, you can scan the QR code, and that'll take you to our homepage. But we just need your application on our website. It takes less than 15 minutes. I just need your educational transcripts, so all of the coursework that you've completed up until this point. And so if you are in 12th grade right now and in high school, I just need everything before that, 9 through 11, and then proof of English proficiency. So our website does have a really comprehensive list of what we will accept to show proof of English. And so IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo, SAT, Cambridge curriculum. So there's a lot of things that we'll accept, but these are the three that we need to apply. And then if you are interested in learning more about UNI and you want to get connected with our office, these are the contact information for myself, but then also my two colleagues that work here. And then we're also available on WhatsApp. So I know this conversation was about professional email communication, but if you have a quick question, feel free to also send us a WhatsApp message and use good grammar. Let's just do that generally everywhere. But you can always ask a quick question through WhatsApp or send us an email as well. So I'm really happy to speak with everyone today, and I saw some questions that came through the chat, and so Victoria is going to help with moderating that. But if you think of anything else, let me know.
Thank you so much, Mайлі, for an incredible presentation and just sharing your perspective, sharing your insights on the topic of communicating with admission officers and making sure that your letters are crisp to the point and really get you the best chance of getting a reply and getting that desired positive reply from the university and invitation to be received and to start your studies. So I would just like to encourage once again our viewers at home to put down their questions and to really not hesitate to get their chance to speak to university representatives and get all the answers firsthand. So our first question is from our lovely viewer, and the student is wondering, good evening, thank you for this presentation. My question is about the level of language used in emails, written in general, and the student is wondering if the language should be complicated or academic, or is that not necessary at all?
That's a really good question, and I think it does depend on the context. And so, if you're just asking a question and it's an email to an admissions office, we do value direct communication, and so you don't have to use a lot of academic language. I will say just using correct grammar, adding the details about yourself, and really getting the point across what you're asking. But if you're maybe writing an essay and it's a more academic essay, or if you're, speaking with a professor and you're asking them something that's a little bit more technical, it could be helpful to include that academic language. But for the most part, I would say for an admissions office, just making sure it's a really professional email and gets your point across, and that should be fine.
Thank you so much for your reply, Mайлі, and thank you to the student who has reached out to us. And I actually see another question from the same student, so thank you for being so active today. And student is wondering, do they need to reply to emails from university just to show that they've read them and to show that they're interested, if the emails are simply like thanking you for replying to the question or something like that?
Yeah, I think it is polite just to say thank you for replying if you want to, but it's certainly not expected. So if I help answer a question for a student, I don't really expect, unless they have additional follow-up responses, a reply back, but it's nice to sometimes get that.
Thank you so much for your answer. And I would like to add that just keeping up with professional etiquette and emailing etiquette, it is always a good idea to send off a quick, polite reply just to show the university that you appreciate their time and that you do not take them for granted. So thank you so much for your questions. And we've got Victoria with us. Victoria, thank you so much for reaching out. And Victoria is wondering, how long before admission do you need to start preparing?
That's a good question. So, preparing has kind of two definitions. If you're thinking about preparing in the form of just researching universities, and you're interested in the US, there's a lot of schools in the US. They all offer something a little different. So, usually we see students beginning the preparation process a year before they decide to apply for a school. Up to a year or more. It depends on the student and their families. And then, as far as preparing to actually submit your application, this does depend on the university. And so for my university, we offer rolling admissions. And so We currently are accepting apps for fall 2024 intake, which is August of next year, and of course, spring 24, which is January. That's coming up in a few months. And so those students are applying about a year in advance. But like I said, some universities, their timelines are a little different. And so it's always helpful to look on their website or just to ask a nice email saying, are you accepting admissions? But I would say definitely earlier rather than later. So if our applications are open and you're interested, apply.
Thank you so much for your reply, Miley, and just for sharing your experiences and tips for that. I would just like to add, Victoria, you can always sign up for a free consultation with Education USA. We'll be more than happy to help you on your journey to studying in the United States and provide you with resources and materials you need to make sure that your application is the best it can be and to give you the best possible chance of getting that positive reply and getting that invitation from the university or college in the United States. So, thank you so much for your questions. I actually have one of my own, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Wonderful. So I get a lot of students asking about opportunities to receive vouchers for waiving their application fees. So do you maybe have any tips about applying for such vouchers or maybe reaching out to admission officers, and what would be the best way to do that?
Yeah, I think a simple email asking is always, that's a very common one that we get. And it really does depend on the university. If you're wanting to take a little more of a hands off approach, one thing that you could do is researching through social media, application fee waivers or a free application week for like a specific school. And then if they have posts or promotion from maybe the years past, that will give you a general idea of when it may be happening again in the future. So that's one hands-off way that you can do some research. I think social media is a very powerful tool, but you can also, ask the school or sometimes go on their website. So some schools unfortunately don't offer fee waivers, and they do make that very clear on their website as well. So research, research, research.
Thank you so much for your answer and for just stressing how important it is to get to know the university or school you're applying to. I would just like to encourage our students to, once again, if they're not sure about whether the university can grant you a voucher, you can always reach out to an Education USA advisor and we will help you on your journey and check everything for you. And another question that I actually often get asked from students that I consult would be one about letters of recommendation. So a lot of students are stressing that if their teachers or mentors do not have a strong command of English, how will they be able to really represent that student and make sure that they get the best chance of being accepted to a university? Should they just please reach out to services of a translator, or would a Google translator translation really suffice?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure if I would be the best person to answer because we don't require letters of recommendation at the undergraduate level here at UNI. So I think it would depend on the university. I would say, like for my school at the graduate level, some programs do request a letter of recommendation, and in that situation, we would probably accept if the student translated it. So if they provided the English, or sorry, the original language and then translate it themselves. But like I said, it does depend on the school and what they would require.
Thank you so much for your reply, and thank you for sharing your wonderful tips and pieces of advice with our student. It was just so lovely to listen to you and learn from you today. And I think I speak for all of our students that you've just given a huge motivation boost to all those preparing for their application process and getting ready to apply to a US college or university. Is there any piece of advice or maybe final words you would like to share with the students?
Thank you so much for inviting me to present on this topic. It's always so fun to connect with you, Victoria. I would say my final piece of advice is just be genuine with the process. take a look at all the good options available to you. I know there's a lot that you are researching. There's a lot on your plate right now, but I am very confident that you will find the best fit university for you, what you're looking for academically, professionally, socially, and just maybe make a spreadsheet. I mean, that's like a very literal piece of advice. I think that's a very helpful way to kind of organize all of your thoughts. But you can always reach out to the admissions offices with your questions because that is literally what we're here for, is to help you navigate that process. So reach out to myself, well, for you and then reach out to Victoria because she's also an amazing resource for you all as well.
Thank you so much for sharing your advice and for just being a wonderful inspiration to all of our students. And to the students with us today, I would just like to say that I wish you the best of luck on your journey to your studies. And I do believe that if you persevere, work hard, and of course, stay with Education USA, you will make your dream a reality and get an acceptance letter from the school of your dreams. And if it happens to be the University of Northern Iowa, I'm sure Mайлі would be happy to help you on your journey and share any advice she can. And of course, stay safe. Make sure that you take care of yourself and that you are once again motivated, that you keep up your energy levels and that you not give up on your dreams. We will be here with you every Thursday, helping you along on your journey. So stay tuned and, of course, stay with Education USA. Bye.